Good morning. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the LaPorte County Commissioners for Wednesday, November 6, 2019. And if you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Auditor.
Commissioner Cora.
Present.
Commissioner Matias.
Present.
Commissioner Mrozinski.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Consideration of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And consideration of the approval of the minutes from October 16, 2019.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Consideration of claims, Madam Auditor.
This week we have payroll ending October 25th, 2019 in the amount of $1,221,859.85 and miscellaneous claims in the amount of $1,612,208.91.
Motion to approve the claims as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is a presentation by Linda Woloshansky. Linda works at the Center for Workforce Innovation, and as everybody is aware that workforce development is a very, very important part of economic development, and Linda has been doing this for a long time. And I've had the privilege of working with her and the group, the Workforce Development Board, as the chair of the chief elected officials for the, is it 6 or 7 counties? 7 counties of Northwest Indiana. And so Linda is here to give a brief report on what's happening in terms of workforce development in Northwest Indiana. Linda, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Cora, for the opportunity, and commissioners appreciate being here today and seeing so many people here that are friends and I've worked with over a period of years. So, I was here about a year and a half ago and talked a little bit about the focus of workforce development, which was really to boost the economy through empowering people, and that's what we stay focused on. We do cover 7 counties, LaPorte being one of them, the other Lake and Porter, Newton, Jasper, Stark, and Pulaski. We are in all of those counties in offices and in presence with staff and available services. Our organization is one which is connected to the local elected officials, as you mentioned, Dr. Cora, with 7 counties, 7 commissioners that serve on our governing board, the Northwest Indiana Workforce Board, where there are 25 individuals who are primarily private sector individuals who are really guiding the development of the activities and services related to jobs that are in the community. And we also have a corporate board which oversees much of our fiscal operation to make sure that everything is going well. And we have LaPorte County residents or businesses on both of those, well, all 3 of those boards. So there is representation from the community, which we think is really important so that we get that kind of firsthand information at a higher level of telling us what really is working and what isn't. Our unemployment rate has gone down in the region since the last time I was here, which is very good. LaPorte County had been at about a 4.8% unemployment rate, and now we're down to 3.6, thereabouts. That changes every month depending on what's happening in the community. And, that means that there are more jobs and there are more people in the labor force who are actually looking for work and trying to get employment. For a long time, that labor force participation rate was very low. I think people were very discouraged, thinking that there weren't jobs. And so now that they see that there is employment, they are out there. When the work is being done in the workforce arena, we're looking at a number of things, staying focused on careers and what will be the pathway for people long-term into jobs, what kind of skills they need to develop. Completion, are they really achieving what intended to do, and are they completing their course of study, whether it's training at a skill level, a post-secondary level? Are they getting credentials? Because that's really important as you're moving around, taking that piece of paper, that credential that is recognized, so that folks can move from county to county if necessary, employers all over the state and certainly the whole country. And is everything connected to employers? Because you can have some dreams that are wonderful dreams and you want to aspire to be, but taking a look at our community, we are trying to make that connection for what are the jobs that employers are needing. When I talk about needing the right workers, we also focus on the data. What does the data tell us? Anecdotally, there's a lot of stories. You hear people commiserate about what's needed, and that is all well and good, and you take that into account, but it's really the data that needs to drive the decisions to determine what direction you're going to take. How are you going to invest the funds that are available in both monetary as well as the people funds? I wanted to give you an update on Skill Up 3. Now, what's Skill Up 3? Well, 2 years ago, we started planning in the community for an opportunity that was available to really take a look at what's going on in the manufacturing community. And we were able, with a lot of support and as a result of community engagement, secure some funding, about $600,000, to invest in both training and infrastructure to allow more manufacturing training to occur right here in LaPorte County. And as you know, you have a very strong manufacturing base. It's been here for years. It continues to grow. It continues to develop and change, and making sure that people have those skills necessary to get into those jobs is really quite important. So after receiving the funds and going back to the planning group, which consists of all LaPorte County residents with economic development and the mayors and the schools, particularly the schools, because we see that's where you can get the most traction over time, really honed in on the strategy that folks felt were very important. And as to date, we have 85 folks that have been trained in manufacturing strategies, in getting credentials. These are all adults. And then there are also over 100 students in our high schools that have also achieved the credentials necessary to go into welding or CNC, mechanical, electrical, or just plain electricity. We've had great support from the manufacturers, who are also identifying people on their jobs, saying if we could upskill these people, if they could get some training, then we can move them into higher paying jobs and open up positions for other people, for entry-level positions. So that really is the perfect scenario, particularly as employers are saying they're not always finding people with the skills they need. Well, let's train them on the job for the skills that they need for you, and help you get a stronger workforce, and for people to have a better retention opportunity with those companies. Over 2,900 students have received some type of an awareness strategy, and of course you would know that at least 2,300 of those went through Made in LaPorte County just recently, so which is just a great success, and quite frankly I think in the state is one of the best events that occur in the manufacturing field. So kudos to everyone that gets involved in that. I know that's a massive undertaking. But we've also had summer camps that put on, or the Michigan City Career and Technical Education Center. We've been connecting with the robotics camps that are occurring as well at the library and elsewhere. Teachers have been trained, developing new skills that will help them do the job that they need to do in the high school and at Ivy Tech and Purdue. And, equipment. A good portion of the funding that has been spent has been invested in equipment. Equipment that has been needed by Ivy Tech at the Whirlpool building, and with the intent of focusing more manufacturing training right here in the city of LaPorte, because we also have, of course, the Career Center and Ivy Tech in Michigan City. So trying to provide a little more opportunity here in the city of LaPorte and in the high schools. So LaPorte High School, South Central High School, Michigan City High School, Westville High School, and New Prairie have all received some Amatral equipment called Skill Boss. Essentially, it is equipment that allows students to learn how to develop skills to become a certified production technician, which is what the employers have said in LaPorte County they need for entry-level jobs. So teachers have been trained there, and starting this fall, and then the next semester will be instructing students in that particular area, which can be completed in one semester. And some of the schools have already said that they are interested in adding training for adults, maybe late afternoon, early evening, so that also in those places that are a little more remote, where parents are accustomed to going to the school and feel very familiar there, that they can just go to their children's school or child's school and get the training that they need. So we feel that that has been particularly effective to date. We have one more year to complete all the goals and outcomes, expectations of that particular initiative, at least in phase one, because the ideal situation is that all of this work will continue after this particular grant is over. The point being is that, using the funds to be seed money to set up, get that equipment that sometimes is really hard to secure funds to secure, and start the training so people get accustomed to it, get accustomed to new places to go for training, and to keep the momentum going. At this point, I would say there's an incredible momentum around this initiative, and I don't see any reason why it will not continue with the dedication of so many people that have invested time so far and will continue to do so over time. As a larger picture, the Work One strategy has impacted 55,000 people last year alone, with we say 31,000 of them coming through some funding called the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. So that's quite a few people. About 220 customers come through offices every day. The placement rate has been 80.2%. And the retention rate of those people placed, 78%. And I think the piece that we're very glad that we're seeing is the return on investment. The return on investment is $5.92 or 592% of every dollar that is invested based on the funding that is received. We get that return in new taxes paid by the workers, reduced TANF benefits, and reduced food stamps. So that's a pretty handsome return on investment, and we feel like those dollars are being put to good use. In LaPorte County, we have also seen a lot of activity. 12,550 people went through offices last year, and 404 of those people were career advised. That means that they received intensive services. Out of those people, their wages have been $15.70 an hour on average. So we're getting close to what we see as some levels of self-sufficiency, which is positive. That's overall the goal. And 1,253 employers were impacted. So there's been a lot of activity in the last year. Besides Skill Up there are other initiatives occurring that are impacting, people here in LaPorte County. We've got the Work Ethics Initiative that is happening in the LaPorte High School and Michigan City High Schools. And these young people coming through and volunteering to participate are actually getting a credential, a certificate, awarded by the Northwest Board and by the Governor's Office, saying that they have the 10 attributes which are critical for any worker. You've got young people in a program called Jobs for America's Graduates, which has a tremendous impact in terms of students who are at risk that stay in school, who complete school, and then go on either to a job or on to post-secondary education. Typically, 90% of those students are successful. And then, beyond that, there's a strategy that recently we feel like was really important for the region, and it's called the 21st Century Talent effort. This has been launched by someone you might know. I think her name's Blair Milo, and she, in her state office, taking a look at what is happening throughout the state and how workforce development can be more compelling and aligned with economic development, launched with a lot of support this idea of a 21st century talent region. And we are one of the few right now that have made an application for our region to go through a process really to determine whether we are kind of up to snuff in terms of meeting the standards, which would include really taking a look at metrics and being able to demonstrate that the work that we're doing all align with increasing educational attainment rates, reducing poverty, and increasing wages. And so I believe that we will be successful and will be considered a region, which means that the economic developers in Indianapolis and the governor's office will be more inclined to quickly recognize this region as having the workforce necessary to meet the needs of new companies interested in Indiana. So we're pretty excited about that and are pleased that we're moving forward on that with a lot of support. And Dr. Cora, you have been a great influencer in that regard as well. So we really appreciate that. In conclusion, I want to thank the commissioners for their support and interest in maintaining an office in Michigan City. We have been there for a number of years now, and I would like to let you know that in December, we will be moving out of the office to the location of 301 East 8th Street. That's the Joint Electrical Workers Apprenticeship building. I don't know if it's really their building, but they certainly manage the building. And we will have a little more space there and a little more opportunity for group work. Right now, we have a lot of activity in the Michigan City office for people who are interested in maintaining their unemployment. And as a result, they will come in the first month of unemployment and find out all the services that are available, and then to continue receiving services until they become employed. And that's going really quite well. So I want to thank you for all the support that you gave us over this time in having that facility available.
Linda, thank you for coming. Thanks for your support in having your office, because that was an important priority for us coming out of the 2008 recession. We had such high unemployment rates in Northwest Indiana in general, but particularly in LaPorte County and Michigan City. So that office helped service many, many individuals who needed work. So I appreciate you doing that. Any questions for Linda?
No questions. It's really great to see you working hard on the employer front and on the skill building front, especially with high schools. I think that's remarkable work and really bodes well for our future. Just on behalf of the taxpayers, could you explain in 1 minute or less where your funding comes from? I think it's important for our taxpayers to see where their dollars, where these services, it's federal dollars coming back through Department of Labor and, all of that. So if you could just give a quick recap of where those dollars come from.
We have a number of different funding sources, but the majority of those funds are coming from the Department of Labor through federal legislation called the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. They come from the federal government to the state of of Indiana based on a methodology which includes poverty levels, at-risk levels, and the unemployment level, and then is then distributed to regions like ours, our 7 counties, which essentially the governor decides what are the regional areas, and they're provided to us using the same methodology that comes from the federal government. So that is the major source of funding for much of the work that I talked about in terms of the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. Skill Up funds are different. We are very assertive in terms of looking for funds, looking at what our community needs to make a difference. And so we frequently go after competitive funding, as well as we are one of 13 members of a group called the Midwest Urban Strategies, having urban communities. Actually, I was a founder in that, and we've got participants from Detroit to Columbus to Minneapolis and Milwaukee, and we've come together to take a look at what are the common issues that we all face representing different urban communities, ours being the smallest, of course, but we've been able to secure over $1 million working with that group for our region.
Thank you. I know our taxpayers like to know what their money is being used
Yes.
for. So this is your federal tax dollars that trickles back down to,
Right.
do youth education, for example, adult learning, all of that. I just think that's important.
And that's what I was referencing to in terms of saying, we have that $5.78 return on investment of your federal money.
Great work,
your
Linda.
tax
Thank you.
dollars.
And every year we look at what kind of return on investment are we getting for the money that is being spent for workforce development. And then we had a great meeting with former Mayor Blair Milo, who is interested in talent development right now and talent attraction. So I think those are some of the things that we are working on for Northwest Indiana in general and LaPorte County in particular. Commissioner Mrozinski, any questions?
No, I did visit their office over there at 8th Street a couple times. It's always been crazy busy when I was there. And I hope your new building is as luxurious as our 8th Street building has been over the last few years. So good luck with that.
Well,
And
thank you
for
very
what you
much.
do.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Moving forward, next item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the commission at this time? Morning.
Morning.
Morning, Lisa.
Lisa Pierzakowski, Center Township Trustee. I spoke with Mr. Mrozinski, a few months back, and I'm coming to formally ask for permission to use some of the millings that are sitting on county property by the toll road to use at our fire station. Our asphalt was put down and our driveway along the edges are breaking down. So we want to put some millings along each side of the driveway. So we'd like permission we would be hauling it ourselves and doing it ourselves.
Mr. Friedman, any legal
No, if there's a
implications?
public purpose connected with it, you want to make up record roughly the volume that's anticipated. I mean, the prior authorization for use at KIP had a specific volume authorization, but as long as you make that a record, you should be in good shape.
I need about 6 inches to a foot on each side of the driveway, so that's about all I know is for volume.
I'll entertain a motion to this.
So before we do that, Mr. Young, do you have anything you want to contribute as far as is that something you can support?
That's the commissioner's wish. That's fine with me.
Okay.
You have any idea when you're going to do it?
As soon as I get my guys start hauling truckloads of it.
Well, we got some out there that's been crushed.
Okay.
More usable material.
Right.
That's a lot of got big chunks in it.
I'd like to get it before it gets to be wintertime and it starts freezing together. So
Pretty close to that.
hopefully, maybe I can get some guys this weekend.
Stay in touch with me.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. President, I move to support this request.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank
we'll get it.
you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else from the public who would like to comment? Anybody else from the public who would like to comment? Seeing none, we'll move forwards with the department head comments. Are there any department heads? Morning, Charlie.
Morning,
Morning.
Commissioners. Mr. President, members of the Commission, I am going to do my absolute best to be brief in these comments, but given the topic of broadband connectivity and its complexity in nature, I'll do my absolute best. It's ironic that Linda Wolashansky is here presenting today, really putting into perspective how important all of these components of from economic development to workforce readiness, having the access to educational support, how important all of it all ties back in together. And there's going to be no debate that the level of importance on connectivity, it just becomes more important every day. But the reason I wanted to present this morning, having just returned from Washington, D.C., is to highlight very briefly the progress that's been made with the LaPorte County's Rural Broadband Task Force. Concluding our 7th month of meetings, we have initiated the process of surveying, mapping, gathering the necessary information that is identifying where the shortcomings exist within LaPorte County, where the most problematic corners of the county exist. We know, and I know Commissioner Matias has mentioned time and time again, the term heavy lift. I wouldn't say it's an understatement, but this is it is a task that requires a tremendous amount of coordination and also research as well as outreach to the community. But having just come back from this conference, I wanted to just report back. Highly unusual to have the opportunity to shake hands and spend some quality time with the commissioner of the FCC, but I was able to spend roughly 2 to 3 minutes with our commissioner, who at the federal level is not an acting commissioner, but is the full-time appointed and ratified FCC commissioner. Had a very in-detail discussion with him about the fact that LaPorte County, Indiana, has formed a task force, and I'm sure he has heard this story across the entire country, but it just reemphasizes the fact that rural America is actively working on trying to resolve and present economically viable solutions to our connectivity challenges. With that being said, SpaceX was there and presented on the low Earth orbit satellites that they're deploying. They've secured tremendous amounts of funding to do that. Roughly 60,000 low Earth orbit satellites are being deployed through their landable rocket system, and the federal government is putting a lot of money behind that. It does not offer a symmetrical connection, which when we get back down into our neighborhoods and our industrial, our business park related issues, such as Kingsbury Industrial Park, they need that symmetrical fiber optic connectivity that gives that connection that's the same up as it is down. So given the complexity and the nature of the topic, I thought it was important just to come back to you, let you know these communications that I was very fortunate to have at the highest levels of the FCC. And as a result of our communications back down into the committee level with the Broadband Task Force, our providers were very adamant in letting me know, if there's one thing you can do at that conference, come back with 3 contractor business cards and contacts that may have time to be able to do some construction. That is, right now, that industry is so overtaxed with deployment of fiber optic cable that those connections are the point of contact with the construction companies specializing in directional boring and underground construction. Those are critical. So successful on that front as well, and that is extremely helpful. So very pleased about the level of activity and what we were able to bring back from Washington. It's always nice to come back with a check and some grant funding, but we've laid the groundwork. They know what we're doing, and they know we're aggressively moving forward. And most importantly, we've got those connections. In conclusion, the one last item that I would recap is I'm hearing through the grapevine that the application that was so aggressively prepared and submitted by 2 companies for LaPorte County, that window is, what I've heard through the grapevine is approximately 2 to 3 weeks. That window may open back up, of which we have 2 applicant companies that we would fully support. Of course, resubmitting, and then work very diligently to see if we can't get a more favorable outcome this go round. So,
thank you. Yeah, thanks for the update, and thanks for working on the rural broadband and trying to get some funding that way we can make this accessible to everyone in LaPorte County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other department heads?
Good morning, Bob Young, County Highway.
Morning.
So give you a quick little report of what we got going on at the highway. We're winding things down with our paving. Getting too cold. Got some chip seal done. Got several miles line striped. Some ditch cleaning. We get things all wrapped up here. I'll get a report to you so you know what we've been doing all summer. So,
great.
Okay. That's all
Thank
I
you.
have.
Thank you very much. Any other department heads? Seeing none, we'll move forward to requests. Oh, yeah, okay, please come.
Coming from the back of the bus, so probably you weren't able to see me, but Joe Golick, LaPorte County Veteran Services. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Please update us on the activities for the Veterans Day coming up.
Yep, there are 2 memorable occasions or events coming up. One is the Marine Corps birthday, which is November 10th. That's the 244th Marine Corps birthday, and I'll give you a brief hoorah for that. And the other one on the next day is Veterans Day, November 11th. With that said, I'd like to just list a few events that are coming up in chronological order. On Friday, November 8th, there's a Veterans Day ceremony at South Central Community School Corporation. It starts at 8:30 with a continental breakfast, and at 9:30 there's the celebration. They simply ask that the veterans RSVP to 219-767-2269. That's 219-767-2269. On Saturday, right here in this room, at 10 a.m. is the presentation of the LaPorte County Patriotic Service Medal Ceremony. On the same day, at 5 p.m., is a Marine Corps birthday dinner at American Legion Post 37 on US 20 in Michigan City. It starts at 5 p.m. That's introductions and happy hour, followed by a 6 p.m. dinner, and then 7 p.m. festivities, and it is open to the public. It's not only for veterans. On Veterans Day, Monday, there is a veterans ceremony at the LaPorte Civic Auditorium. From 8:30 to 9:15, there will be coffee and donuts served. At 9:30 will be the ceremony. Former U.S. Senator Joe Donnelly is scheduled to be the guest speaker, among others. There's also another Veterans Day ceremony at Michigan City High School at 1:30. Anybody interested is to enter through the gym doors in the rear. There's going to be a modified military parade, school band, choir, and the junior ROTC presentation. Pat Boy will be the guest speaker. Vets with family and friends are invited. And finally, on Saturday, November 16th, at the First Church of the Nazarene at 2147 Ash Street in LaPorte, there's a dinner that's open to the public from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's free. It's presented by the Gold Star families. And some of the things that are going to be on there would be ham and beans with all the fixings, the chicken and noodles, and hot dogs and chips Sounds like a sea ration dinner that I used to enjoy 50-some years ago. That's all I have for today.
Thank
Good
you.
one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Is there anybody else? Any other department heads? Seeing none, we'll move forward with the request. Consider permission to approach council for a new vehicle. Mike Quinn.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm here for a simple request. My truck is 14 years old, has 176,000 miles on it right now. It's due for replacement. So I'm asking permission to approach the county council for a new vehicle.
Motion to approve this request.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Old business. Consider issuing public notice regarding hearing or disposition of county property at the LaPorte County home and adjacent 5 acres, excluding the county barn. Mr. Friedman.
Yes, Commissioners, as you're aware, the Council and Commissioners must publish notice of a public hearing and approval of disposition of the county home. It must be published once in 2 newspapers at least 10 days before the public hearing. Public hearing can occur at your next regularly scheduled meeting. At the respective meetings, both the Council and Commissioners can hear any opposition and then pass resolutions approving the disposition of the county home and the adjoining 5 acres. Your resolution at this next meeting would also establish a minimum bid, terms, and conditions of sale. And so what we're looking for today, consistent with the direction that the council has asked for, and I know the direction that the commission has taken, would be approval to publish the public notice providing for a public hearing at this next commission here at the next commission meeting, so that you could adopt your resolution then and hear any public comment, and then determine terms and conditions of sale, particularly a minimum bid that you're going to be asking for as well.
I entertain a motion to that effect. On this one, yeah.
We're making a motion.
Is there anybody from the public who would like to address this issue about the county home? Seeing none, I entertain a motion.
Mr. President, move to approve a public notice on disposition of county property.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Then consider a recommendation of the Sheriff's Department for food service, food vendor service, Sheriff John Boyd. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. About a month ago, we requested to be able to put out requests for proposals for privatization of our food service in our jail. We've since received those. You've accepted those. We have had an opportunity to sit down and review the 4 proposals that we received. But we also looped in the Juvenile Services Center because we did proposals not only for the jail and the community corrections, because we provide food service for community corrections, but we also included the Juvenile Center as well. So the director of the Juvenile Center is here, Erica Stallworth, and our Director of Administrative Services in our jail, Jeannie Krauselman, is here. She's been very instrumental in putting all of this together. As a result of the proposals, we anticipate that we can save approximately $383,000 a year on food service while not sacrificing the quality of the food, the nutritional value. We also know that while the employees in our kitchens would no longer be LaPorte County employees, one of the things that we ensured is they would go with the vendor that we will be selecting. At this point, we're making a recommendation of Tiger Correctional Services. And I'd like, Ms. Stallworth, if you have anything that you'd like to add at this point, you're certainly welcome to.
Good morning. I just wanted to state that I am in agreement with the Sheriff's recommendation, just with the caveat that we are able to maintain the 2 separate kitchens and our requirements to maintain our license at the Juvenile Services Center.
All right. Any comments?
No, could you just summarize the details that were shared, like 1-minute details that were shared? And I think you did it for the entire contract. Just a couple of the highlights, because the public likes to know where their money is being spent. So just, sure. I think the savings is significant, and I think that's the bright star. But if you could explain a little bit so we understand what's happening in the jail.
Yeah, a couple of the highlights that we are going to be able to keep our local vendors, right, with bread, milk, and some other miscellaneous items around. We're also as the sheriff said, able to keep the employees that we currently have, and the same with at Juvenile Services Center. And by including the Juvenile Services Center in this contract, we could keep the kitchen set up the way that we have it. So we don't have to merge the kitchens together, and meals can still be made out on site at the juvenile center. We don't have to deal with some transportation issues that may arise with transporting the food from the jail kitchen to the juvenile center, and still be able to keep the price at the same as it was quoted. So,
and what is the savings again? I think that's the price.
Savings, about $383,000 we're looking at for next year.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to review some of the material you had sent, and I'm pleased that we were able to keep the employees and the staff here, maintain the quality and the nutritional value, and still be able to save a significant amount of money. So I think it's a positive move from my perspective. Commissioner Brzezinski?
No, I was at that presentation also, and I think it's a great idea. Anytime we can save money, it's a good thing. If you're so inclined, I would make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the sheriff.
For Tiger.
Yes. For Tiger.
Yep.
I would support that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
New business, consideration of child support enforcement contract with Eagle Accounts Group. Morning.
John Lake, prosecutor. Barry McDonald's the head of our 4D division. He'll explain what this is. It's just this is a format. I guess this contract had never been signed by the commissioners. It had always been signed by the prosecutor's office, but I didn't think that was the proper way to do it. So we presented to Shaw, and Barry can explain exactly what this is about.
Sure.
Morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
I'll be brief. As you know, the primary purpose of the 4D office is the collection of child support. And most of the recipients of that child support are families, our parents, grandparents, guardians. But in fact, from day one, a part of the job has also been reimbursing the state of Indiana through the payment of child support for expenses it's made on behalf of those families and children. So this contract only deals with state owed arrears, meaning it does not deal with any money that will be paid to individuals in LaPorte County or elsewhere. It only deals with the collection of money that is owed the state of Indiana. So when our office, for whatever reason, has been unsuccessful in pursuing these state-owed arrears, the state of Indiana enacted legislation several years ago, administered by the Child Support Bureau in Indianapolis, creating the ability for counties to contract with private collection firms. They are all approved by the state. We don't get to go out and pick whoever we want. There are just several that are approved by the state, licensed, vetted by the state of Indiana, and we turn over a list periodically of cases involving state-owed arrears, payers of support who haven't paid, who owe the state of Indiana money, and they do a nice job of collecting that money. It's literally, well, not literally, there's a few minutes of effort periodically in our office in generating the list, but essentially no effort, no expense to the county, no expense to the 4D office. By statute, the funds are allocated. 75% of what's collected goes back to the state, 15% goes to the collection agency, and the 4D office of every county gets 10%. So we're not talking about a huge amount of money that comes in. So far in the first 2.5 years, we received a couple $1,000s. But again, it's a couple $1,000s that we didn't have, and through very minimal effort. And certainly we could use that money and not have the county have to pay for whether it's training or a computer or whatnot. So that's really the contract. The last time this began was 2016, so it's kind of a 3-year contract. We're back for renewal, and there you have it.
Great, thank you. Mr. Friedman, any comments?
No, I would indicate, I guess, reaffirm our prosecutor's comments that we appreciate the department bringing the contract here. I think this commission has insisted since January 1st, 2019, every single contract come before the commission be approved and considered at a public meeting. Department heads, frankly, don't have the authority, or elected officials have the authority to enter into a contract. The only entity able to enter into a contract is the Board of Commissioners. So this is consistent with that directive, and we're comfortable with the format of the proposed contract.
Thank you. I entertain a motion.
I move to support this. It makes good sense.
I would second that. Would that be all 3 commissioners need to sign that, or just the president?
I'm not sure the form of
I
contract.
thought it was just the president. I thought.
I'll tell you in just one
Yeah,
moment.
it's in our.
I think it looks like one signature.
One second. Okay.
Okay. I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Consider opening material bids. Bob Young, Highway Department.
I believe Shaw has all the bids. He'll open them up and I'll gather them up and take them next door if that room's available. And,
Sure.
Anybody wants to look at them, you're welcome to look at them.
I thought that's all one. Okay.
$92.
Did you organize it or not? Okay. All right. First bid open. Timely received. Class 6 signs and signposts. County Highway Hall signs. Bloomington, Indiana.
As a reminder.
And again, on these highway bids, rather than reading each and every segment, what I'd like to do for the record is indicate for you if it's timely received and it does have the bid bond documents in it, then that is then referred over to the department head. So we have a timely submission. It would appear by Hall Signs with the appropriate bond document. The second sealed bid, Highway Supplies Class 6, received from Osborne Associates, Logan, Ohio. $1,000 performance bond included. And again, Class 6 is signs and signposts from Osborne Associates. Debco Metal Culverts Incorporated. This is on the culvert bid. Bid bond enclosed. And again, timely received. Okay. Fend and Brown. Let's see what class this is. Bituminous patching. It's, again, timely received from Fenn and Brown, Milford, Indiana, and the performance bond included. Next, Class 3 Slag, Beamstreamer Associates, Hammond, Indiana. Bid document, performance bond provided, and again, timely received. Walsh and Kelly, timely received for bituminous patching, Class 2. Bid bond enclosed, and again, timely received. Petro Choice Lubrication Solutions, Class 5. This is for, again, Class 5 is fuel. Petro Choice. We've got their bid bond. I'm not seeing a performance bond on here. Bid bond enclosed, again, timely received. Class 5, Triple J Mar Petroleum, Wanata. This is, again, diesel fuel, no lead gasoline. Timely received and appropriate bond enclosed. Reith Riley, Class 2 bituminous, timely received. see. Appropriate bond attached as well. Next is Phoenix Services for Class 3 slag, timely received, and this is for slag delivered both LaPorte Garage and Hannah Garage, and appropriate bid bond attached as well. Central Paving, this particular bid for summer-winter cold mix, timely received. Bid bond attached. Class 1 crushed limestone received from USA Aggregates, timely received, and bid bond enclosed. This is the bid of Debco Metal Culverts received for culverts, bridge material Class 7, timely received, and appropriate bid bond attached as well. We have these be received and referred to the department head for recommendation on each of the classes of materials.
And entertain a motion to that effect.
I would move to refer them to the department head for inspection.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Consideration of the 2020 holiday calendar. We have that in our packets.
Motion to approve it as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item D, consider easement for NIPSCO, Jerry Sullivan, County Engineer, and update on Cougar Road. Morning.
I sent an easement, requested easement by NIPSCO for the EV parking lot just northwest on the other side of the bridge on the highway. And I don't know, Sean, had a chance to look at it. If there's any questions or concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, I did, and we asked for some input from the county surveyor. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes.
And so my suggestion would be that perhaps we consult the county surveyor to have further discussions with NIPSCO on how the easement can be further refined. I think his concern was it was too overly broad in terms of what it was seeking. It wasn't consistent with the kind of easement he'd like to see for that location. So if it be the commission's preference, perhaps refer it back to Jay and to the surveyor to further refine with NIPSCO, and then hopefully come back at the next meeting.
I entertain a motion to that effect.
I would move that we refer back to Mr. Sullivan and the engineering department for further consideration, and you'll return when it's appropriate.
Yes, I will.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then the update on Cougar Road.
Yes.
I do have a representative from MnDOT here. MnDOT is doing some modifications to State Road 20 at the intersection of Cougar Road just north of the school, New Prairie School. And they are asking the county to do a couple things. One would be to make from the school to State Road 2 south a one-way street going south. And then on the north part of Cougar Road, just south of US 20, to put a turn lane, right turn only lane in, and make the other lane left turn lane. I guess I would like permission from the commissioners to approach the council for funding for that. I probably would need to be at your next commissioners meeting with the exact amount. I'm still working on the amount from that. I want to make sure that we're going to have it covered. There will be easements that will need to be purchased for that, and then a roadway, about 350 to 400 foot of roadway addition for the right turn lane.
So you're going to bring it back after
I
you
will bring
approach
back
the
at your
council?
next meeting. I'll have some finalized numbers that I will ask you to be able to approach the council with for asking for that if the commissioner will proceed.
Make a motion that we give them permission to approach the council.
Are you going to come back here with some
I
more
would like
details?
to come back to the commissioners with a number
First,
Yeah,
and then we will
go to council.
I'd be more comfortable with that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's
Okay.
what I do.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Kuehler, you want to come up and say a few words since you used to be here once upon a time? Good morning.
Sure. Good morning, Commissioners.
Yes.
Just one small correction on Jay's statement. It would be a one-way road northbound from Highway 2 towards the school, because the goal of this Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, that's okay. The goal of the project, because it's been a huge safety concern for years. Even my previous days at NDOT, before I had come to the county, we had fielded numerous complaints and requests for signalization. And unfortunately, with traffic's being split, some going north to US 20, some going south to State Road 2, there's never been enough traffic at either location to warrant a traffic signal. So my predecessor at NDOT, who had retired last year, kind of devised this plan to make that propose the one-way street, force everybody that leaves the school to go north to US 20. That would then justify a signal at US 20. There seem to be less safety concerns at that intersection. You have the hill at State Road 2, higher speed, more trucks. The accident data does suggest that there have been more severe accidents at the State Road 2 intersection with Cougar Road. So the preference to move all the traffic up to US 20 increases safety. It warrants the traffic signal. So that the ask from the county, mostly from an efficiency standpoint, if you take 100% of that traffic from the school and send it to US 20, even signalizing the intersection, it definitely would experience a lot of congestion. So adding the additional lane there will make that intersection function not only safely but also efficiently.
Are the residents in the area, are they comfortable with this plan? Have you gotten any feedback from them?
A couple public meetings on that.
Okay.
Public hearings, and you probably get more feedback. I haven't got any negative feedback.
Okay.
Commissioners have. I don't know the NDOT
has. Yeah, we did. We held a public information meeting at the New Prairie Middle School. I think it was just a few months ago, and there were definitely some concerns to this end. Okay. I think you never make everyone happy. The refreshing experience was that we had a large number of people with concerns, maybe even opposed, that after we presented all the data, I think we did change some minds. There were probably a couple people that walked out at the end of the day, maybe still a little bit frustrated that they won't be able to head south to State Road 2 and make their left or right turn out of convenience. Okay. But certainly, and I know Sheriff Boyd's a big proponent of the project in general and just the safety aspect of it, that, what's 5 minutes out of your drive if we're going to prevent people from getting T-boned and injured severely or even worse.
So there's a choice between safety and convenience. So obviously safety trumps everything.
Yes, that's right.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a resolution. So it's a resolution authorizing eminent domain proceedings to acquire easement in KIP to permit right-of-way to connect KIP rail with CN main line. Mr. Friedman.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the Commission, as you may be aware, and I know you are aware, that effective with state law change July 1st, 2014, the Redevelopment Commission cannot exercise the power of eminent domain, but it's the Board of Commissioners who can do so on behalf of the Redevelopment Commission. This particular proposal emanates from the Redevelopment Commission and is simply the first step in seeking to acquire easement rights over particular property that is needed for connection to the CN rail connection, which is on the north side of Kingsbury Industrial Park. The authorization that essentially the Redevelopment Commission is seeking today is to start that process. Under this process, commissioners must first conduct an appraisal to establish a proposed purchase price, a title search to determine all parties who possess an interest in this particular property, identify the names of owners. You then must make an effort through our office to purchase the property. So before we ever get to filing a condemnation action, there is a negotiation that goes back and forth. We must have you establish a proposed purchase price. You must provide the owner with the appraisal used to establish the proposed purchase price. An offer to purchase must be served personally on the owner, and then the commissioners must conduct good faith negotiations with the owner. So I want to make that very clear. There are a number of steps to be taken prior to commencing a filing of a condemnation action in the court. This particular easement that is sought is critical for, from a public purpose standpoint, to further develop the Kingsbury Industrial Park as a prime rail-served industrial park. As this commission is aware, you've got two Class 1 rail carriers that abut the industrial park. And so the Redevelopment Commission is continuing to make a good faith effort to get connection with both main lines. The Office of Economic Development has been working consistently this year at trying to get a deal done with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation to get a grant to make the connection on the south side of the park with the CSX main line. And I think they're very encouraged by the progress that's being made there. On the north side of the park, the connection with the CN line is also important. And so, unfortunately, other owners in the park have sought to negotiate with this particular property owner. It has been unsuccessful to this point. There is clearly a public purpose and vision in gaining an easement. I think it's important to point out that even if the easement is gained, it does not lessen or diminish the value of the underlying parcel. You're not seeking to take the entire parcel. You're simply seeking an easement across this individual's land for purpose of the rail. Redevelopment Commission has worked over the last couple of years now to take control of all the rail in the industrial park, all easements and rail, so that you don't have one owner holding another one up, because that, as you know, was a problem for several years and led to some litigation out there. So now redevelopment is fully in control of all the rail at the industrial park. This is not designed to try to induce an intermodal. The economics have changed so that an intermodal is not really feasible at this time, but what it is designed to do is to make the park attractive for rail-served manufacturing. The county has been successful in landing a couple of new developments out there, but anytime you can hook up rail inside the park with Class 1 rail lines that adjoin in the industrial park, it's a good thing. It's a strong inducement to manufacturing prospects. You've got Tony Rodriguez and Matt Reardon, who've been working extensively at prospects for the park. I mean, we've already had a couple of good, strong hits in terms of some new manufacturing out there, but this easement is critical to finally get that CN connection that everybody out there wants. So hopefully that gives some background on how we've gotten to this point today.
James Friedman, since it's a resolution, I'm going to open this up for public comment if anybody wants to comment on this particular item. I just want to mention that this has been going on for several years, and the county has invested $6 million to build this rail spur. And over the years, different commissioners and different commissions have been working hard to make sure that this particular area, the Kingsbury Industrial Park, continues to develop and grow. And I think this is important. This item is extremely important to see this come to fruition. If you don't mind, can you, in a couple of minutes, can you summarize what happened to $6 million? That way, for people who are not familiar, because this has been going on for so long, people are a little bit confused.
Absolutely.
So if you can just summarize what has happened, where we are, and what we are planning to do by the acquisition of this easement.
The spur is still a good investment. I mean, I understand it was taken at the time back in 06, 07 with the hope of inducing an intermodal, but the spur is necessary to really connect the north part of the park with the south edge of the park. The owners out there and other developers have always said you've got to have connectivity throughout the entire park. The $6 million spur does that, okay? But you've now got to get that spur connected both to the CN main line, which is on the north edge of the park, and the CSX main line, which runs adjacent on the south edge of the park. So this gets you that much closer to getting full connectivity through the park, which is a huge inducement to prospects. To be able to say to a business prospect, we've got 2 Class 1 rail carriers that service that industrial park is huge. And so there's already been good development. There have been a couple of smaller manufacturing prospects. And I think the Redevelopment Commission has now acclimated to the new economics. We're not talking an intermodal. And frankly, the economics have changed significantly in the 12 years since that was really proposed. But what you're talking about is having an industrial park that is fully rail served with land that is shovel ready, that is attractively priced. In fact, the Redevelopment Commission has talked about about when, in fact, incentives should be offered. We want property owners to offer land at a reasonable price, but I think all of the redevelopment commission is encouraged and enthused by the progress that's been made. For instance, there is a renewable energy project that is being considered for a portion of the park as well. And so I think there are some things that we're close to landing, but continuing to have progress toward full connectivity in that park is important, and that's why I think the redevelopment commission asked the commissioners to consider this next step.
And one point I also wanted to make was we had the rail spur, but we originally did not have the control over the easement, and that is the reason why the individual property owners were trying to deal with the potential new businesses that were planning to come, and then the new businesses didn't want to come because they didn't want to deal with so many different property owners, and we worked hard on making sure that the county acquires that easement. That way they have one place they can deal with. If you want to expand.
And Doctor, that's an important point, because frankly the project was held up for 2 to 3 years just in litigation between the existing property owners.
Right.
And the redevelopment commission said, no, enough is enough. We need a one-stop shop for developers. You shouldn't have to negotiate a separate deal with every property owner that may have wanted a separate rail access right over their property. So you can imagine how difficult that was. We had to go through that litigation. We ultimately got to the point where a declaration was signed with the property owners. The key rail served property owners out there have all signed a declaration. So redevelopment really worked 2 to 2.5 years to get that part of it done, because you're absolutely right. All prospects would come in and say, well, no, I'm not going to negotiate with property X for a rail easement here and property Y here. I want to negotiate with one entity. It needs to be the County Redevelopment Commission, whose interests are development of the entire park. So I think that's a great point to make.
The reason I mentioned that was because I do get asked this question as to what's going on, and it is so complex and complicated, and I think from time to time it's important that we explain it as simply as we can. That way everybody has an understanding of where things were and where they are now and where we are heading. Is there anybody who would like to comment on this particular resolution? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I have a few comments.
Yes.
I appreciate Mr. Friedman's explanation, because I think anyone who's done economic development knows that if there are barriers to development, even small barriers, for example, communication barriers, there's so many sites that are shovel-ready around our region that the developers keep on moving. So, but, from a public perspective, this has been a lot of false starts, a lot of hit and miss over 25 years, I would say. And what I think is important to note is that we now have a team, the Redevelopment Commission, the County Council, the commissioners, the staff in the Office of Economic Development, the staff for the Redevelopment Commission, that are all laser focused and trying to get us off the dime. There was $6 million of taxpayer dollars invested in that property, and I think it's important to note that money is not wasted. It is money that we are making sure that we get a return on our investment. So we want that site to be fully rail serviced. Mr. Friedman mentioned the Class 1 carriers. That's so important for manufacturing. They won't come if they can't get their goods distributed in an efficient and cost-effective way. So making sure that we get that return on investment. The use of eminent domain is highly difficult. We want to make sure that we note that the property will not be negatively impacted. It will not reduce its value by having an easement across it. But eminent domain is only used when it is in the best and highest use for the public. And in this case, after 25 years of communication issues, taxpayer investment, private investment, it's to the point where this is clearly the best option for public development. We're trying to bring in investment into our county to make sure that we have a healthy economy and places for people to work and live and raise their families. So I think that it's important to note that this has been a long time coming.
Commissioner Brzezinski, any comments?
Yeah, I'm a relatively newcomer on this. I've only been dealing with this property for 13 years. We've had a lot of hip parades and a lot of long faces. I'm like everybody else. We know we've got a diamond in the rough there, and we all know the potential for that property, and I want to see it happen. The bottom line is I want to make sure that first of all, like you said, it's a long process that we negotiate this so that in the end, everybody's happy and that the landowners out there feel like they've been treated fairly. In the end, I think we can accomplish that, and I think that someday we're going to have that place hopping like we know that it can. So I'm all for that. So,
Mr. Friedman, in the healthcare parlance, when I talk to my patients, I say surgery will be the last option. So, all right. So the eminent domain will be the last option, but there'll be several steps prior to that to make sure that the property owner will be treated fairly and there'll be fair compensation for allowing us this easement.
That's correct. And Redevelopment Commission has already authorized 2 appraisal firms to start from that end, and that way we can tender a formal offer and see what we can do about getting a negotiated resolution, if we possibly can.
Excellent. Thank you. I'd entertain a motion in support of this.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing eminent domain proceedings to acquire easement in KIP Park.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Item F, consider local roads and bridges matching grant agreement. Mitch Bishop, the master grant writer. Bonnie.
What you have before you is a grant agreement from NDOT to the county for the community crossings project that we just received, $1 million. Now, one important thing, a little bit of information, is it must be in blue pen. Your signatures. Yes, all right. That's the big thing, because it's been done many times in black and they kick it back to me.
All right. I'll use a blue
pen. It's a border point contracts. Shaw reviewed it as well.
Okay. Right. Shiny
no, it's stock language in terms of the NDOT normal contracts that we're not unused to seeing, and so we're comfortable recommending it to you.
All right. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mitch.
Consider memorandum of understanding with M.A. Dilson Associates, Sheriff Boyd.
Hello again. We're here to seek approval for a consulting agreement between M.A. Dilson Associates and LaPorte County Sheriff's Office. It's for our pension and employee benefits consulting service. It should be noted that M.A. Dilson has been our consultant since 2013. This is the same agreement that we've had in place every year that we renew. It has been approved by our Sheriff's our pension board and our merit board as well, and now it comes before you. It has been given to Attorney Friedman, and he has had an opportunity to review it.
Any comments, Mr. Friedman?
No, that's correct. Diltz has provided good service. I know the department and the merit board is happy with the service they've gotten from Diltz, and we're comfortable recommending approval to you.
Any questions?
No. Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item H, provide notice to proceed with construction of Michigan City Courthouse renovations.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What we're asking the commissioners for this morning is final approval to go forward with the construction plans. This would finalize the plans. We've been through workshops in the council and cut millions of dollars off the project, and we finally have a number that the council is comfortable with. This would be basically the final step, no more changes, and once the architects have these plans finalized, then Town of Blank can go out for bids.
Very good. Any comments from
already?
Yeah, it's been a little while.
Yeah.
I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has been involved in this, and I know our auditor, Mrs. Winsky, has been involved. Several department heads have been involved, and thank you, Doug, and also the council and my fellow commissioners. It's a big project, but it's time to move this project
had
forward.
multiple meetings with the department heads and made adjustments. I think everybody's happy with the final result.
Let the record show the council was involved in all those meetings. I'd send a motion to approve.
Mr. President, before we move to the motion, I just think Mrs. Winsky needs a shout out. She has done so much of the heavy lift on this project, organizing us, pushing us forward, negotiating. sharpening, making sure everyone sharpened their pens and pencils. It's a lot of money. It's a big commitment for our taxpayers. And I think she and Christy have done a wonderful job of making sure that the taxpayers are going to get what they are investing in, and making sure that the terms are satisfactory and that it's to our benefit. When you hear the word on the street, they're like, wow, that's so much money. It is a lot of money, but that courthouse has been there for I don't know how many years. 100. It has not had a significant renovation in that time. It's had small renovations, but nothing significant. Our needs have changed in relation to connectivity alone. The technical needs, the space needs, the safety needs, and so this building will be the old building with a new addition, and it will meet the needs of our growing justice system, and it will also bring a lot of our departments together, so we won't be scattered. People can do one-stop shopping. Instead of going to 8th Street for things, they can now come. The health department will be there, and other smaller departments. So it's a customer friendly. Our taxpayers, yes, they will be working on paying this down over time, but even those terms, the auditor's office under Joey's direction have done a really good job of making sure that we're getting the best deal we can and most efficient and effective. So I just wanted to call her out because she's done a lot of great work.
Commissioner, I'd like to follow up that comment too, because I think it needs to be noted that the team that's worked on this has done it in a way so that taxes will not have to be raised to pay for this project. Yes. Between an amount that's in a capital project and the some of the debt financing. And we should note as well, LaPorte County was one of only 6 counties in the state that did not have any bonded indebtedness. So through good frugal management, if you've got no bonded debt before now, and so they've even figured out a way to pay that bond debt service every year without having to raise taxes. So I think that's an important point that I know you want to make as well.
Thank you.
When you're doing the shout out, I'll also give a shout out to the council. I know sometimes we have to struggle in getting things done, but to that effect, they have been helpful in making sure that we don't have to indebtedness. So that's a good thing.
And I want to make sure we're also clear. This project is absolutely necessary.
Yes.
We've had a couple fires in that courthouse. Yes. The city of Michigan City has been very patient with the county on this renovation, but that courthouse absolutely needs.
Yeah, not only for the customer satisfaction for the people who come there, but also for the safety of our own staff. The health and safety of our staff. Yeah. Very good. I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
Motion to approve.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Commissioner comments. Commissioner Matias.
I always get to go first, so it must be ladies before gentlemen. All right. I have a couple updates. We've been talking about the county website redesign. You may remember I always note that the last time we did any major construction on our website was in 2003, before iPhones were invented and when people had flip phones, and if you had a BlackBerry, you were considered high tech. So our county website is in its final phase of development. We're meeting, the work group is meeting again on the 14th of November with our web developers, Sarah Solution out of Michigan City, a local company, for our last design look-through. We've been meeting with department heads to make sure that we are meeting their needs and making sure that the county website is not only customer-friendly, but meets the needs of our departments. Then we're having a training on the 18th of November. We have a group of county employees who have stepped forward and said, I want to make sure that I'm part of this. So websites, as you know, are only as good as the information on them, and in keeping them contemporary and current needs attention. We can't expect one person in the IT department to make sure that the website is up to date. So this group of super users will be county employees who will have as part of their job duties to make sure that the information on the website is accurate, that agendas are uploaded, that meetings are on there, that information that our citizens need will be available to them. So that meeting will be on the 18th. And then our launch of the new county website is expected to be the week of November November 25th, that Thanksgiving week. We're hoping if everything works out up to that point, we will be launching on that week of November 25th. So I'm very excited about it. A lot of us have put a lot of effort into it. Call out to Bailey and to Tony for their Office of Community and Economic Development is kind of the home for this website and the project. And that's because community development, the web active website that is kind of the red carpet into our community. We have a beautiful county. Our current website doesn't really address some of our attractions. We're making sure that we have customer service friendly so people who live in LaPorte County can find the information they need. But when you want to visit LaPorte County, you can also find out a little bit about our county, our demographics, what our neighborhoods look like, what our festivals are like. So we're going to be working with community partners to make sure that the website is a really good one-stop shop for people on the internet. So that's very exciting. Look forward to that by the end of November. And then the Vibrant Communities Project, which Dr. Cora has talked about, also comes out of the Office of Community and Economic Development as our hub. There have been 5 listening sessions held to date around the county in all corners of the county. The 6th meeting will be held on the 18th of November at the Blue Chip from 6 to 8. And then there will be a summit on December 4th at the LaPorte Civic Auditorium. And that's a lunch meeting, and that will be where all of the data is gathered, all the input. And frankly, I attended one of the sessions with the Unity Foundation, and it was really fun to work with a table full of people and begin to kind of find out what words describe our county, what do you think are the most important things, what are things that you think should change, and what do you think are things that we should that should remain as part of our heritage. So I'm looking forward to that December 4th meeting. It's open to the public, so I wanted to be sure we talked about that. The Broadband Task Force meeting, which has been meeting for now, this is our 8th month. We'll meet on Friday, this Friday from 9 to 11 at the Purdue Northwest Dworkin Center. It is open to the public. There's a core group of people who are tech experts and advisors who have volunteered their time and effort. It's very interesting. We have gotten the attention of our internet providers. Data from the public was submitted by survey, so people who filled out that survey may wonder, why did we ask your upload speed and your download speed and where you're geographically located? But we got lots of great data from our county residents and county businesses. And then Mike in GIS mapped all of that, and so now we have our own data. And why that is important is because the cable companies and internet providers are very, very closed in sharing data. So it would seem to me that, hey, where do you have your fiber optic lines? Doesn't seem to be a really hard question, but you would think it was a state secret, and that we are, playing, code blue or something, because they are not forthcoming as to where their infrastructure is or where their plans are. So now we have data that they want, and it's put us in a very fine negotiating position by the public actually giving us simple data. How does the internet work at your house? Do you have the speed you need? And then letting them actually submit their upload and download speed. So now we have that mapped all across LaPorte County in every corner, and that is really great data that the internet providers, now they want our data. So it's put us in a really good negotiating position. In addition, we have been meeting with the cable providers and letting them know of the work, letting them know of where some pockets of need are. And I wanted to be sure that you realize that there has been some success. Yesterday, we issued a press release from the county. I have copies for the commissioners and copy for the press if they have not received it. We have had Acme Communications, which is a LaPorte County fiber optic company. They have met with us, and because of those meetings and knowing the effort that we have been putting into making sure that our county is served throughout the county, no matter where you live. Acme Communication has actually invested in the area around 300 North, between 300 North and 421, and 20 to 30 properties are now getting new and fast service, and 90% of those homes have already been hooked up. And one of the most interesting things is that this is a quote from Bill Ritchie from Acme Communications. Prior to our investment, those homes' connections was a hotspot with speeds of 250 kilowatts. Now with the new fiber, they are at 100 G. Their internet speed has improved and is now 100% 1,000 times faster. So that may not seem significant, but that's 20 to 30 homes. And it's also made that area attractive for development because other homes say, whoa, they've got the internet access and the broadband speeds that we need. That's a great place for us to invest or build our businesses or build our homes. So that's a big milestone for us because we're actually getting traction on the focused effort that we're putting forward. And our internet providers are realizing that there's an opportunity. Yes, we know that it's an opportunity for them to make some money, but we also want to make sure that they realize that our county is we're going to figure out a way for this problem to be resolved, and they want to be part of the solution and not continue to be part of the problem. So wanted to share that with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rosinski.
We live in a great country. And on Monday, you got a chance to thank those who made that possible. It's Veterans Day. It's very simple, 5 words. Thank you for your service. We appreciate that.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Linda Woloshansky for coming this morning to give her presentation. Economic development is a big area, but workforce development is a very important component of economic development. I mean, we may try to attract businesses, but if the workforce is not there, businesses are not going to come here. So I want to thank her. I want to thank our educational system. They are working hard with her to work and to get the grants, the Skill Up grant, $600,000 for LaPorte County was a great investment. And I think that will help advance manufacturing. That is what is necessary right now. And a lot of local community organizations and non-for-profits, they all participated in this application for the Skill Up grant. And so that has been a successful project for our LaPorte County. And just a couple of things to add on to the vibrant communities. There are about 400 people, 400 to 500 people who participated in these 5 meetings, and they gave their input. And Maggie Sparks from the Unity Foundation and Jack Arnett from the CVBB both are working together. And they are also going to have some meetings targeted towards certain communities who have not participated to the extent we would like them to. So I think there's one for the African American community that's at the Blue Chip. And then I also asked Maggie to do one for the younger generation, the people who are just out of college and who have just started their jobs, because I think getting their input is also critical as we chart our progress to what kind of community we want ourselves to develop into. And lastly, I want to say thank you to Kathy Kroback and her team for smoothly conducting the elections yesterday. Before 8 o'clock, I think all the results were out, and so I want to thank them all for doing that. With that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, thank you.